I, Grail of the Vorth Collective, Senior Training Officer at the Coast Military Academy, have written exactly 942 training reports in my career. I have documented failure in many forms. Cadets who could not hold a plasma rifle steady. Recruits who broke down during sleep deprivation trials. Point one, particularly memorable trainee who somehow managed to set the mess hall on fire twice in the same morning. None of those reports prepared me for this one. This is the official record of human trainee Dax Vero, and I want it clearly stated for whoever reads this in the future. I did not ask for this assignment. I did not volunteer. I was selected. Commander Vaughn looked at me from across his desk, smiling in that calm, confident way he always does, and said, "You are the most patient instructor we have, Grail. Surely one human trainee will not break you." Commander Vaughn is a liar. I say that with full professional respect and complete honesty. The human arrived on a standard transport shuttle on the 42nd day of the third training cycle. I had already read his file, every line of it, which, to be fair, was not much. Humans had only been part of the coalition for 11 years. Point 11. The Vorth have been members for over 4 centuries, and we are still considered relatively new. Oh yes. Humans are an unknown variable. Most species viewed them the same way you would view a small, loud animal that wandered into your home. Not dangerous enough to remove, but not predictable enough to trust. The file said, Dax Vero, age, 26. Height, slightly below average. Weight, standard human parameters which meant nothing to me. Experience, 2 years in something called the Tarnov Defense Corps. For what I could tell, a small regional militia. Nothing impressive. Academic record, decent. Not exceptional. Then there was one line that stood out. Candidate. Demonstrates unusual persistence and non-standard problem-solving orientation. I have read enough evaluations to know what that means. That IT means does not follow instructions. Then Dax Vero stepped off the shuttle. I will admit, I was expecting something else. Humans, according to coalition records, are soft-skinned, physically fragile, emotionally unstable, and somehow still resilient. That a strange combination. What I saw was a short human with brown hair carrying a duffel bag over one shoulder, wearing a jacket that was not regulation, and he was eating at a TA military academy. On arrival, he stopped at the bottom of the ramp, looked up at the academy building, squinted at the light, and said out loud, "Smaller than the brochure." I turned to instructor Kel beside me and said quietly, "I want it noted that I am already suffering." Kel, of course, found this amusing. "This is going to be wonderful," he said. Then the human noticed me. "And this is important." He looked directly at me, and oh hesitation, and oh fear. Most trainees freeze for at least a second when they see a Vorth officer for the first time. That we are not subtle, we are large. Gray-skinned. Four-armed. With a secondary jaw that makes even a polite expression look like a threat. We are, by design, intimidating. Dax Vero pointed at me, with a hand holding his food, and said, "You're Grail, right?" "I am Senior Training Officer Grail," I said. "You will address me properly, trainee." "Got it," he said. And oh tension, and oh fear. Just curiosity. He tilted his head slightly and added, "You've got 4 arms. That's actually really cool. Do they all work independently, or is there like a coordination thing?" I stood very still. Kel made a noise that I will not attempt to translate. "Follow me," I said. "The first 3 days at the academy are always the same. Orientation, facility tours, rules. Point 17 different ways to get expelled, medical checks, equipment assignment, then diagnostics. Not tests you pass or fail, just measurements. Baseline to the way to see where a trainee starts." Dax Vero somehow made them feel like failure anyway. The first assessment was physical endurance. That we had baseline expectations for humans. Modest ones, because frankly, humans are not physically impressive by coalition standards. No armor, no enhanced strength, no secondary systems. Just endurance. Moderate performance across varied environments. That was the assumption. Dax Vero ran the course in 38 minutes. The expected time was 22. I looked at the result, then at Kel. Kel looked like someone who had just found something unpleasant in their food and wasn't sure how to react. "The benchmark is wrong," I said. "Possibly," Kel replied. We ran it again, 0.37 minutes, 50 seconds. The track is miscalibrated, I said. I checked it twice, Kel said. So I went to find Dax Vero. He was sitting on a bench, eating again. Different packet this time. Trainee Vero, I said. Did you run the full course? Yeah. You understand the elevation section? The hill? Yeah. That part was fine. He paused. Actually, no. The wind section near the wall, that part sucked. I looked back at the data, then at him. Your time is significantly below expected. He looked at the screen, then at me. Is that bad? It means you were slower than projected. Oh. He thought about that for a moment, then said, that's kind of a weird benchmark. I stared at him. You're probably using early human data, he continued, from when we first joined, right? That stuff mostly came from athletes. He shrugged. Average humans aren't athletes. I said nothing, but I made a note. For the first time, I wasn't sure if the problem was the trainee or the system measuring him. And that was the beginning. The strength assessment did not improve things. If anything, it confirmed my expectations. Dax Vero was not strong, not catastrophically weak, just ordinary, exactly the kind of performance you expect from someone who survives but does not dominate. The reflex test, however, that was different. The setup is simple. Lights and sound signals trigger in random order. The trainee responds as quickly as possible. Accuracy matters, speed matters, patterns do not. Because there are no patterns, the system randomizes everything. Dax Vero's accuracy was above average. His speed, mediocre. Nothing special, but something was wrong. He kept reacting early, not by much, but consistently. At first, I assumed it was coincidence. Then I reviewed the footage 3 times. It was not coincidence. He wasn't guessing, he was watching something. Specifically, a small thermal vent on the side of the machine, IT released a tiny amount of heat, about 4 seconds before each signal triggered. It was a manufacturing flaw, so minor that no one had ever noticed it. No one till now. I marked it as anomalous because I did not yet have a better word. The cognitive assessment came next, and this is where things became interesting. We used the Tarkin protocol, coalition standard IT measures, processing speed, logic, pattern recognition, problem solving under pressure. Humans, based on our data, were expected to perform average, lower middle range, consistent. Dax Vero sat down, looked at the first section, and started answering immediately. He finished it in 4 minutes. The benchmark was 12. I watched this happen in real time and experienced something I do not often experience, doubt. Then the second section began, and everything slowed down. This section required holding multiple rules in mind at once, adapting as conditions changed. He read the instructions twice, answered the first question, wrong, tried again, wrong again. Then he made a sound out of very human sound, short, sharp, frustrated. Come on, he passed that section, barely 0.2 points above minimum. Then came the third section, pattern recognition under noise, irrelevant data layered over real signals, designed to confuse. He looked at the first problem for 11 seconds, then answered it in 4. Every question, same pattern, pause, then immediate answer. Accuracy, 94%. Final score, average, completely average. I submitted the result, but I did not write average in my private log. I wrote inconsistent, because inconsistent does not mean weak. That IT means something is happening that we do not understand yet. The weapons calibration test was difficult to watch. Dax Vero picked up the energy rifle, held it correctly, good posture, good grip. He fired, missed, not slightly, completely. He fired again, closer, still wrong. He fired 11 more times, each shot a different kind of mistake. The technician, Pex, looked at me. Try not to laugh. His calibration is off, Pex said. He's compensating the wrong way every time. He was trained on a different system, I replied. So he's not bad, Pex said slowly. He's just wrong. There's a difference. Dax Vero lowered the rifle. Carefully, like someone making a conscious decision not to throw it. He looked at the results, then said, that's embarrassing. It is only a baseline, I told him. There is nothing to be embarrassed about. Easy for you to say, he replied. You've got 4 arms. That is not how accuracy works. I know. he said. I just want better results. And there it was, no excuses, and no denial, and no frustration directed outward. Just acknowledgement and intent to improve. I made another note. Because most trainees, when they fail, do one of 5 things. They justify, they withdraw, they get angry, they panic, or they pretend it didn't happen. Dax Vero did none of those. He accepted the result and immediately started thinking about how to fix it. It was a small detail, but it did not feel small. By the end of the first week, I had a full baseline profile, and it made no sense. Below expectations in endurance, average strength, anomalous reflex behavior, inconsistent cognition, poor weapon calibration. Commander Vaughn reviewed the report, then looked at me and said, "So, he failed everything." "He failed nothing," I replied. "These are baselines." "He performed below expectations." "He performed below our expectations," I corrected. "The distinction matters." Vaughn studied me for a moment, then said, "He starts standard training tomorrow. And if he doesn't meet minimums, then we discuss whether he stays." A pause. Then Vaughn added, "Try not to let him break anything." I returned to my office with a very specific realization. Commander Vaughn was enjoying this. The training cycle had begun, and for the first time in a very long career, I was no longer confident in my own expectations, which, as it turns out, was the real problem. The first real test of a trainee is not their individual performance. It is how they function inside a group. Cycle 4 had 11 trainees, 0.7 Vorth, 0.2 Solari, 0.1 Cat Hani, and 1 human. Dax Vero met the rest of his cohort on the first morning of training, and I watched carefully, because first impressions matter more than most people realize. They shape everything that comes after. The Vorth trainees reacted as expected, quiet, observant, slightly skeptical. They already knew his scores. Trainees always do, and no matter how many times I try to stop that tradition. The Solari were not quiet. Pex and Riv approached him immediately, curious, energetic, unfiltered. They asked him questions a lot of questions. What do humans eat? How often do you sleep? Is it true you consume toxic substances for recreation? Some do, Dax said, not me. I tried once and slept for 14 hours. Riv found this fascinating. Tova, the cat Hani, said nothing. She simply watched from a distance, which, given her size, was not subtle. She positioned herself where she could observe him, constantly, quietly, with the focus of something trying to understand a new kind of problem. And Dax Vero, he did what he always did. He answered, he listened, he adjusted. No discomfort, and no attempt to impress, and no attempt to hide. Just presence. The first group exercise was tactical. Movement, simulation environment, objective, reach extraction, avoid detection. Simple, at least on paper. The simulation began. 3 Vora trainees reached extraction quickly, direct route, efficient. 2 more followed with minor adjustments. Pex took a longer but safer path. Riv was eliminated. Tova did something I'm still not entirely comfortable classifying. She physically dismantled one of the defense markers. This was not part of the intended solution, but it was also not technically against the rules. She reached extraction carrying part of it as a trophy, and Dax Vero did not arrive, at least not immediately. 12 minutes into the simulation, he was still inside, not moving. Why is he not moving? Kel asked. I'm determining that, I said. We watched the feed. He was crouched behind cover point 60 meters from the objective. He had not moved for 4 minutes, but he had not been detected, not once. He's waiting, I said. For what? Kel asked. I did not answer, because I did not know yet. Then something shifted. One of the defense markers rotated, scanning cycle, standard pattern. Most trainees time 1 marker at a time. Moved through gaps. Simple. Dax Vero waited, then walked. Not ran, walked. Across open ground. Straight to extraction. He arrived with 23 seconds remaining. Last place. Worst time, worst route, and 0 detections. I replayed the footage again and again. Then I saw it. He wasn't tracking 1 marker. He was tracking all of them. At the same time, not individually to a SA system. He wasn't reacting to obstacles. He was watching how they interacted. He mapped the overlap, I said. Kel was quiet. Our training teaches sequential response. Yes, I said, and he ignored it. I saved that footage because something about it felt important. After the exercise, we held the debrief. Standard process, review performance, identify weaknesses, assign improvements. When it was Dax Vero's turn, I said, your time was the lowest in the group. Your route efficiency was 31%. What is your assessment? He looked at the data, then said, yeah, that was bad. No hesitation and no excuse. But I added, you were the only trainee with 0 detections. The room shifted. Subtle, but noticeable. Attention moved toward him. I tracked the overlap patterns, he said. The markers run independently, but together they create gaps. I waited for the one gap where everything lined up. That takes longer, I said. Yeah, he replied. But it works. Riv spoke up. You traded speed for safety. Yes. You could have moved faster. I didn't know how many hits I could take before I was out, Dax said, so I didn't risk it. That answer mattered, more than the result. Because he wasn't trying to win the exercise. He was trying to understand the system. Your score is low, I told him. You need to improve your speed. Understood. He wrote something in his notebook. Not a datapad, but a physical notebook. Paper, he had requested it on day 1. At the time, I approved it. Now, I was beginning to question that decision. Because he was writing things down constantly. Not just results, patterns, observations, connections. Things I could not see yet. Weapons training began in week 2. And this is where I expected him to struggle the most. I was correct, but not in the way I expected. His energy rifle. Performance was inconsistent. He would improve during a session, then lose that improvement the next day. Kel called it recalibration lag. Old habits interfering with new ones. But Dax Vero did something unusual. He didn't just practice. He studied. He requested the weapon specifications, spent hours reading them, then asked Pex to explain the physics behind the system, not how to shoot, why it worked. He wasn't correcting behavior. He was rebuilding understanding. It took longer, but when it clicked, it stayed. His kinetic weapon performance improved faster, slow, deliberate, consistent. He spent 3 hours adjusting his grip. Same shot, again and again and again. Pex watched this for a while, then said he's very thorough. Obsessive, I said. Is that a human trait? I believe, I replied. That is a Dax Vero trait. Close quarters training revealed something else. His form was wrong. Technically incorrect, repeatedly. 6 major deviations in his first session, but his results were not. He hit targets, maintained balance, transitioned smoothly. His technique is incorrect, Kel said, but the outcome is correct. I had no answer for that, because our system does not reward outcome. It rewards correct process. And Dax Vero was not following the process. He was reaching the result anyway. I marked it again, anomalous. By the end of week 3, I had more anomalies than explanations, and for the first time, I began to consider a possibility I had not allowed before. He was not failing. He was operating outside the system we were using to measure him. By the end of week 3, the numbers were clear. Dax Vero had met the minimum benchmark in 4 out of 12 categories. 3 were close, 5 still below, improving, but not fast enough. On paper, this was not a successful trainee. Commander Vaughn reviewed the report, then looked at me. 5 categories below minimum. All improving, I said. Not fast enough, he replied. There was a pause, the kind that carries weight. He has until the end of the cycle, Vaughn said. If it doesn't meet minimums, we review his enrollment. Standard protocol, clear, uncomplicated, and completely inadequate, because something was not being measured. I just didn't know what to call it yet. The rest of the cohort had already begun forming patterns, strengths, roles, expectations. Tova dominated physical engagement. The Vorth trainees handled direct movement and pressure. Pex and Riv managed communication and support. Clear structure, predictable. And then there was Dax Vero, no clear category, no clear strength according to the system. But every time I watched him, I felt like I was missing something. One evening I saw him outside. The conditioning circuit voluntary and a requirement. Most trainees use it for speed work or endurance. Dax Vero was walking. Slowly, he stopped, crouched, looked at the ground, wrote something, then moved again, stopped again. For points, same pattern, then he repeated the entire circuit, faster, stopping at the exact same locations. I watched from the window and realized he was not training. He was studying. That thought stayed with me because it explained something, not everything, but enough. Week 4 introduced live scenario exercises, not simulations, real environments, real opponents, still controlled, still non-lethal, but real. The first scenario was simple: search, secure, reach objective. One trainee assigned as observer. That trainee was Dax Vero, and I will admit, my first thought was good. Cleaner data, no complications. I was wrong. Observer trainees are expected to watch, take notes, submit a report. 3 to 5 pages. Standard. Dax Vero submitted 40 pages. I checked twice. It was not excessive writing. It was comprehensive. He documented everything. Movement patterns, decision points, missed opportunities, then went further. He identified 7 terrain advantages no one used, 3 alternate routes, and something else, a section titled Maintenance Pattern Observations. I read it twice, then a third time. He had tracked the Academy's maintenance drones from a fixed observation point. In 90 minutes, he identified their schedule, their blind spots, their predictable gaps. No trainee had ever done this. No instructor had ever done this. And I had worked here for 11 years. I took the report to Kel. He wrote this without moving. Kel asked. Yes. Kel read the section again, then said, if this were a real facility, this is a vulnerability. Yes, I said, we should fix it. I already submitted a request. Kel looked at me. You told him what? A security review. Because I was not going to explain that a trainee who was failing his benchmarks had just identified a system-level weakness we had missed for over a decade. I called Dax Vero to my office. He sat down calm, focused. Your report, I said. Yeah, he replied. It was 40 pages. I know. Saw the... You are aware the standard is 5? Yes. A pause. Was it a problem? He asked. I watched him carefully because this mattered. The drone section, I said. He nodded, slowly. I wasn't sure if I should include that. But you did. If it's important, you need to know, he said. And if it's not, you can ignore it. I held his gaze. We are updating the drone system. He blinked once, then asked, is that good or bad? That depends, I said, on whether you meet your benchmarks. He didn't look away, didn't flinch. I know my scores are low, he said. I know I'm behind. I'm working on it. I know, I said. And I did, because I'd seen it. Every failure, every note, every repetition. But effort is not a metric. What's the biggest gap, he asked. I turned the data toward him. Tactical movement speed. Route efficiency. You solved the problem, I said, but you take too long doing it. He studied the numbers, then said something very important. I need to get faster, a pause, or find a way to get the same result faster. I should not have agreed, but I did. Yes. He wrote that down, and I realized something. He wasn't trying to fit the system. He was trying to understand it well enough to bend it. The next 2 weeks changed everything because Dax Vero attacked the problem methodically. He ran extra drills, studied past simulations, analyzed route patterns, asked Tova, the fastest trainee, how she moved. No shared language, just observation, movement, repetition. His speed improved, not dramatically, but enough. 2 categories moved above minimum. 3 remained, and then week 7 arrived, the asymmetric scenario, and that was where everything changed. The asymmetric scenario was designed to expose weaknesses, uneven teams, uneven terrain, uneven advantage. One side defends, one side attacks. Simple, unfair, effective. The disruption team was Dax Vero, Pex, River, and Joel. The defense team was everyone else, including Tova, which meant on paper, this was not a fair fight. The scenario began. The defenders did exactly what they should. Tova locked down the main access point. The Vorth trainees spread out, covered every obvious path. Clean, structured, efficient. Textbook defense. And the disruption team did nothing. For 4 minutes, nothing. Where are they? One of the visiting officers asked. I checked the sensor display, and for the first time, I did not have an answer. Because they weren't there, not on any visible path, not on any tracked route. They had disappeared. Kel leaned forward, then said something I did not expect. They're in the drainage system. I froze. There were no sensors there. Because it was not considered a tactical path. It was maintenance infrastructure, narrow, unstable, ignored. And suddenly, I remembered. Week 4, the conditioning circuit, 4 stopping points, 4 drainage access hatches. He wasn't walking, he was mapping. On the display, Joel appeared, moving openly, drawing attention, pulling 2 defenders out of position. At the same time, a hatch opened. Inside the defense perimeter, 3 figures emerged. Dax, Pext at River. Tova reacted instantly. Fast, precise, but too late. Dax Vero was already at the objective. He marked it, 8 minutes, 12 seconds. Scenario complete. Silence. Then, one of the visiting officers spoke. How did they know about that route? He documented it, I said, in a training report. That was the moment everything shifted. Because now, it was visible, not just to me, to everyone. His score on that scenario, top 3. Not because he was fast, not because he was strong, but because he saw something no one else did. The officer looked at me. His benchmarks? Still below minimum in 3 categories, I said. And yet he said, yes, I replied, because now I understood. Finally, clearly, Dax Vero was not failing. He was solving problems the system didn't know how to ask. What would you call this capability? The officer asked. I thought about it. About everything I'd seen, the patterns, the notes. The patience. He reads environments, I said, not just obstacles. The entire system. He sees how everything connects and where it breaks. And his weaknesses? They're real, I said. He's slower. He's less precise under pressure. If you need direct force, he's not your first choice. A pause. Then I added, but if you need to know where the system fails, he already found it. That was the moment the decision changed. Not officially, but undeniably. The final scenario came in week 11. 3 days, full scale, no script, 1 team, 1 objective, reach extraction against senior trainers, and 1 more rule. At any moment, 1 trainee would be removed. No warning, no replacement. Day 1, the team moved well, structure coordinated. Dax Vero did something unexpected. Didn't lead. He listened. 2, everyone, mapping them, understanding them, the same way he understood systems. Day 2, the removal happened. Joel, their strongest asset, gone. The team stopped. Not in panic. In recalculation. Dax Vero sat with the map, silent, for 37 minutes. Then he spoke, calm. The eastern route is gone, he said. They expect us there. A pause. The western ridge is slower, harder, but unguarded. Another pause, and there's a drainage access point. I documented it. Did you plan this? Pex asked. I planned for options, Dax said. That was the difference. They moved, slow, difficult. He fell twice, got up, didn't say a word. 4 hours later, they reached the objective, undetected, unstopped, mission complete, team intact. That is what matters. Not speed, not scores, not perfection. Outcome. I wrote my final report that night. Number 943. The longest of my career, and in it, I wrote something I had never written before. He is not failing. He is optimizing for something we are not measuring. The review board agreed. They created a new category based on him, environmental analysis. Because sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is not the strongest or the fastest. It is the one who sees what no one else even thinks to look for. Dax Vero failed 2 benchmarks and passed the only one that actually matters. He brought everyone home.